All right, welcome, gentlemen, to this week's session with our neural reprogramming coach, Milan. In previous episodes, we've spoken about hopelessness. We have spoken about, gosh, it escapes, escapes my memory. What did we speak about? Beliefs.
Talk about beliefs.
And
Yes.
we have done, these sessions have had a great response, so we decided to make it a regular thing. And for those of you who are not a part of the program, we are literally bringing you some of the things that Milan is working with brothers inside the program on. So you are getting an inside look on how some of these things work. Today, we are going to be talking about values. And I've got a bunch of questions. That's why I'm here on my phone for Milan. Um, Let me pull up those questions. Values as they relate to your rebooting. But before we even get into it, I think just to preface all of this, I think when a lot of men are asked about their values, they think they have values. So they might say things like, oh, one of my values is not stealing, it's not
Mm.
lying, it's all these different things. But sometimes I've asked brothers in the program, like, hey, man, what are your values? And they're like, to be a good guy, to, just be a good person. Don't lie, don't steal. But I believe that for a man to be fully recovered and to change his self-image, he needs to not only have values, but he needs to define them very clearly. So to get started, my question to you is, what are values, Milan?
All right. Thank you for having me again this week, JK. And yeah, you are absolutely right. People do need to define values quite well. They need to have deeper understanding of them in order to know how to work with them and how to use them for any kind of personal growth, success, anything that they would like to achieve. So I'm gonna lay out some definitions of what values are, and so plenty of people can understand. Basically, they are generalizations that describe what is important to us. We decide whether our actions are good or bad, right or wrong. This is what values do, and they have massive impact on our actions because they drive our behavior in a way that they give motivation to all of our actions. So they have massive impact on our outcomes. You can think about values as buttons that are either attract or repel us from some things in life. They are moving us toward something or away from something. We have both kind of values. We have toward and away values. Toward are when we have positive motivations, when we are moving towards something positive, we are moving towards a reward. And we have away from values, which are when our motivation is kind of negative. We want to get away from something. So we have this kind of two basic set of values. Um, when it comes to values, these are they are quite connected to beliefs that we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
So beliefs are concepts we think are true,
Okay.
and values are ideas we hold to be important. So together, when we combine beliefs and values, we have our attitudes and opinions about things. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
it
And we
does.
have and we have them for pretty much in all the contexts that are there. We have them for relationships, business, career, spirituality, personal growth. We have values in any area of our life.
This is great. So could it be fair to say that could we define values as what you consider to be important in your life?
Yes, what's important to our life. And because of values, we do what we do.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Well, why why would values be so important to us?
If I can put it in one sentence, values are key to unlocking our mindset. So this is the basic and why values are so important to us. Most people, leaders, managers, when they're trying to manage their employees and when we try to manage ourselves, we are focusing to improve our performance by focusing only on our skills and the gap in when we are missing some sort of skills. But it doesn't matter how many skills we have. If our values and belief system is not aligned with our skills, we are not going to use it.
Hmm.
So if we are adapting a new skill, we need to make sure it is all completely aligned with our value system and our belief system in order to use that new skill, new knowledge, or whatever that is. So
Okay.
that's why it's very important. Otherwise, we're just not going to use it. We can know all about it, and it's just going to stay there. It's not going to be used.
Okay, so you're saying that we would not take advantage of a skill that might on the surface be good to us if it is not connected to our values in any way. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. We need to align them with our values in order to use that skill. We're not going to use it if it's against our values. And when we are using something that is against our values, that can create all kinds of difficulties. I can give you an example. For like in Reboot, a lot of brothers, they are having challenges in their relationships, right?
Okay.
So let's say an example where person A decides not to see some people or to stop some certain action just to please her partner, person B. But this is against her core values. This person A will start having resentment, and in a way, it will start punishing person B for asking that from her. Yeah, she will give him a silent treatment, or she will behave in a way, talk to him in a way that is not so polite, and the person B will experience some hurt, but will not completely understand what is really going on there. And that can create a lot of confusion because it's kind of a mystery. What is going on there? I don't know what is happening, and that can lead to, like I said, a lot of difficulties because when it comes to values, we love people who share same values as we do, and we can also react very strongly with people who are not sharing the same values as we are.
This explains a lot. We have also in the reboot program, we have individuals who reach out and their values are things like, and this is leading to my next question. So they value things like family, they value religion, they value truth and compassion. And sometimes when they hear in the reboot system that there are men in here who family is not a priority to them or they are not religious, they their response is, I wouldn't want to be a part of this program because I don't think it's a good fit with my values. um Obviously there's a lot more going there, and the way I see it sometimes is that we are unable to take advantage of certain things that might help us because we don't truly understand our values. So with that being said, how do we create values that have not only that are very clear to us, but also support us in various aspects of our lives? Because you've just literally said that your values could prevent you from learning certain skills. Well, we would want to be able to learn as much as we can, especially when the thing is going to be beneficial to us. So how do we develop, I hear this term highest values, right?
Mhm.
How do we develop that so that as we go through the world, we it's our values actually supporting us for the most part?
Yes. Well, first thing that we have to understand that there are values out there, but for each person individually, they can mean completely different thing.
Okay.
So if somebody says the one of my highest values is honesty, for me, that could be just me being open to people, being completely honest with them. But for somebody else, it can be honesty means that other people don't lie to me. So that is even though it's kind of similar thing, it's quite different from each person's perspective. So we need to understand that, for example, a value of family and religion can mean many different things for many different people.
Okay.
So that is one thing. So in order to function in the world with somebody else, we have to be willing to understand their values, to understand their system, and to make sure they understand our system. So once that is happened, the real benefit comes in. And when it comes to discovering our higher values, we can elicit them by asking a simple question: what is important to me? Now, a lot of people, when they think about values, they mix them with beliefs, because beliefs are quite conscious thing. We can say family is important to me, but value can actually be unconscious thing. It can be just an idea of the family. So it usually comes down to one word, family. But
Hmm.
for explaining the belief, you need a kind of a whole sentence. So that's why people can mix these two, and there can be lack of understanding. But back to finding our highest values, we need to ask ourselves what's important to us. Let's say in relationships, what's important to me in relationships?
Okay.
Yeah, and when we discover that, then we can put those ideas that we find important, we can put them in hierarchy order. So not all values are equally important to us. We're going to have higher, we're going to have lower ones. And once we have that, we need to find a reason why each of these values are important to us. So
Hmm.
that helps us create that very strong value system, and we can go really, really high. The more we ask ourselves, why is something important? Why is that value important to us? It would lead us to a higher value or higher criteria, as we can call it in NLP.
Okay. No, thank you for explaining that. It just it reminds me of sometimes I will have clients who reach out and they go like, JK, so you've overcome this behavior. How they'll ask things. They're like, well, how is it that you meditate 2 hours a day, which is something more recent? Or how is it that you're able to just go to the gym consistently all the time? Or how are you able to work with this number of clients and do this and do this and do this? And in the past, I would try different ways, Milan, of explaining this to them. And they would look at me, it's almost as if they're like, yeah, you're hiding something from us. Like, I feel that sometimes they think that, well, you have something I don't have. But as I listen to you now, I think it really comes down to what I value. So if I
Exactly.
value health, and if I value time management, for instance, and if I value um, um, working with clients in a very specific way, I will make that happen. And I think for me personally, I think it has helped in various aspects of my career. So for all of those people who are listening, just as a final question to wrap this up, um, what is it that happens when we define our values? You're like, okay, cool. So now I've defined some values. What happens when we're actually living by those values? Because Milan, a lot of people say they value things. A man might say, I value family. But then he ends up working all the time, comes back, is exhausted, doesn't have time to pick up his babies and play with them or ask his wife how the day went. A man could say, I value fitness and health. But in the afternoon, when he's hungry, he's going to go for a soda, and a donut. So, what happens when our true values are aligned with us and the way we live?
When we are operating from our highest values, we
Hmm.
are experiencing congruency and ultimate satisfaction. So this is what will
Could you repeat
happen
that again?
when we are operating out of highest values. We are experiencing congruency and
Congruency.
satisfaction, the ultimate satisfaction. When everything is aligned with our actions, we have that kind of huge motivating force to make those values happen for us. We have to experience satisfaction, because everything that is important to us is there. We have it all,
Mm.
right? And once that is satisfied, we can only be happy. And having that understanding that we mentioned earlier, me willing to understand your values and you are willing to understand my values, that creates a way for creating that situation that we call win-win. Yeah, because both participants are willing and choosing a course of actions that will support each set of values for each individual. And that
Hmm.
creates a huge win-win when it comes to values. That is the difference that makes the difference. And
Okay.
especially when it comes to relationships, this is something that can determine and predict if the relationship is going to be successful or not long term.
This is so good. It reminds me of I was speaking with one of our reboot strategists, our senior reboot strategist, GT, and we were talking about some of the plans that we have as a company for Porn Reboot. And we were talking about how some of the reboot strategists and many of the people had stayed with our company. But when I started, it was just me and he was the next person to come along. And we were like, isn't it interesting that so many people stay with a company that has to do with porn addiction? Is really weird, you know, because they're like, oh, can I put this on my resume? Will I put this on my LinkedIn? Like, what will people think? What will my family think? Like, what is going on there? But we realized that deep down, the only reason that they stay is, well, apart from the fact that I pay them very well, is that I'm generous in paying, is that they actually enjoy the work they're doing. I think a lot of people have the value of helping other people and seeing the joy as these people transform their lives. And when they actually have the opportunity to do it in a valid, legitimate way, they're like, well, why not? I'm actually contributing to something.
Exactly.
So I definitely see how that helps in relationships. I guess a final question was, you talked about win-win as values affect people, right?
Mhm.
But what else could happen in somebody's life if they are living in alignment with their values, apart from better relationships and more cohesive like organizations and families and so on? What could happen on the individual level?
On individual level, we are experiencing, like I said, true satisfaction. We are having much more energy. Our focus is kind of laser focus. So pretty much we can move mountains when we are aligned with our values, and we have a network of beliefs that are supporting those values. So we can really make wonders. We can really easily know what's important to us and where we want to go. Immediately, if something or someone offer us something, we will know yes or no, and we will perfectly feel like great about it because
Hmm.
we know if this aligns with our destiny. Because this is what values actually do. They affect every decision that we make and ultimately our destiny.
I love it. I love it so much, Milan. You know, we have clients who come to us, they're in their late 30s, all the way through their late 50s. And they say, like, you know, JK, I've done very well. I'm quite successful in my career. But as I get to the point in my life that I would like to leave a legacy and I start thinking of the future and what have I actually done, they're like, it doesn't feel right. But I have a beautiful wife. I have kids that I love. My family cares for me. My business is doing so well. I'm respected in my church and by my peers. I'm respected as a professional. Why doesn't something feel right? And oftentimes it's because in secrets, in the evening, when they're stressed, they are
Mhm.
engaging in that secret sexual behavior that is not in tune with their values. I've often told people, I was like, you're exhausted, not because of your biochemistry. You're exhausted because you are constantly in a state of justifying something that is not in tune with your values. And you're saying, what you're saying is just perfect because you literally just said that when you live in tune with your values, you have more energy. You're not wasting time justifying it, feeling guilty, or experiencing negative emotions, right?
Yes. And whenever some of our values are violated in some way, we can actually feel a physical pain in our body.
Wow. I did not
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. Exactly,
Okay,
this is
that's
what
interesting.
happened.
That's probably a topic for another day. But Milan, this has been a joy. It's always very enjoyable to have conversations about this. There's always a wonderful energy. Gentlemen, actually, for those of you who will be watching this live, if you could do us a favor and drop in the comment section, whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, what you would like Milan to talk about. So, between him and I, we have like a wealth of knowledge in different areas. However, this is about him because I talk all the time. So, whatever you would like to hear from him, just ask your question in the comment section below. We will compile them, and most likely, you will see us talking about them every week. Milan, thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time
you,
to join
JK.
us today. We will see you next week.